You're welcome back to the program. Before the break, we talked about corporate governance issues in the global business space. Now let's see how much of these Nigerian companies have adopted. David Rage is the partner, SIAO RSM Nigeria, and he was talking to us about how much of corporate governance compliance have we imbibed in the Nigerian business environment. Thank you so much, David, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Before I actually went on break, I was talking to Richard, and I asked him how much of corporate governance culture have we imbibed in Nigeria. Let me start with that with you.
Well, you have a number of pieces of legislation that deal with corporate governance within Nigeria. The issue is, though, that apart from our clients, because we are a professional services firm, it's not clear to what extent entities within the Nigerian environment would have complied with those various codes. We're in fact in the process now of doing a survey that would help us get some empirical evidence of this.
Okay. Let's take a look at the principles of practices of corporate governance in today's business environment. Are we making any headway in that?
Certainly. The Financial Reporting Council has recently exposed certain draft standards, revised codes of corporate governance. They've been exposed publicly, and it's expected that sometime in the near future, those codes will become law. Okay.
Are there areas that regulatory authorities need to step up enforcement? I asked Richard about how we're doing in the country, taking a look at what happened in other parts of the world. Do you think that we need to step up enforcement in Nigeria to be able to meet up with the standards and requirements?
There is the suggestion that this needs to be done. We had a seminar yesterday on this issue of corporate governance, and some of the comments we got out of that was that it was felt that regulators do need to, in fact, step up.
So what does GRC, the governance, risk and compliance, really is set to achieve when it talks about how corporations are operating? What is the set objectives?
Well, first of all, it operates both in the private and the public sector. The objective essentially is the reliable achievement of whatever objectives the entity has. So whether you're private sector, you must have certain objectives. You want to be able to achieve those objectives reliably and sustainably, not just short term and long term.
Does it vary from company to company in terms of what the company does? Or is there a blanket regulatory framework that guides or that all companies must comply with?
Taking a cue from the draft codes which have been issued by the Financial Reporting Council, you have one code for the private sector, one code for the public sector, and another for non-for-profits. Okay, so it actually varies. It varies by the type of entity, yes, but all private sector entities generally should be able to adhere to the same principles.
Okay, now let me take you to the board, which I actually engaged Richard a while ago. How much compliance do you think should be put in place from the board level?
Difficult question to answer. From the board level, certainly you need to have systems in place. You need to have proper governance. You need to have proper directors. First of all, the directors must be competent. One of the things someone from the Financial Reporting Council spoke of recently is that chairman of audit committee need to be accountants. Okay? You need to ensure that proper systems are in place within the board. There must be an audit committee that does certain work, reviews how the external auditors are set up, the appointment of the external auditors, reviews the recommendations, the management letters, reviews the work of the internal auditors, and these types of things. So the systems do need to be in place at the board.
If you look at Nigeria, you are in Nigeria here
yes.
at the office, are we following that?
Again, we can only comment on our clients, and we see that to a large extent our clients are following this. But again, we expect to be able to comment more widely based on the results of a survey that we've planned.
You made reference to the Financial Reporting Council, and that brings us to the issue of accountability, social responsibility, because every company that exists has its purpose, and the goal is to ensure that it satisfies the consumers or the clients, as the
Yes.
case may be. How much of these have we put into perspective in terms of our level to go the whole haul in terms of having to ensure that we are abiding by the principles of corporate governance?
Each entity would be probably at a different stage of what we call the corporate governance continuum,
Okay.
right? There are some that are just taking baby steps, and there are some others, I don't want to call any names, that would be near the top of the curve. So it really depends on the stage of the organization itself.
And does that bring into focus the issue of succession as well? Do you think that a board or a company should set out guidelines as to how the plans for succession in order to ensure that confidence in the company is sustained?
Certainly that speaks to the issue of sustainability, certainly, so that customers, employees, key stakeholders dealing with the organization would be willing to do business with that organization if they know they're going to be around for a while.
Okay. Now, what implication do you think that corporate governance have beyond the boardroom? Take, for instance, issues around environmental sustainability and labor standards, work ethics, for instance.
All of that is part of the corporate governance issue. When we talk about corporate governance, what we talk about is principled performance, which we think is important because you don't want to achieve just performance in the in the short run, and not be able to sustain your business. Certainly, I think few people would want to buy, let's say, a car from a company that they think will only exist for the next 2 years. They want an entity that will be around for some time to be able to supply spare parts, service, so this type of thing. Similarly, any organization that you deal with, you want to believe that that organization would be around for some time and operate at a high level.
How much do you think various organizations in the country, I'm taking more on Nigeria now, how do you think they actually understand the risks involved in achieving corporate governance? How have they been able to manage the risks that go with it?
Based on our experience, there is a high level of understanding. What we have not seen, and again, this is based purely on anecdotal evidence, we haven't done a scientific survey, is the appreciation of the need to practice proper risk management.
So, how much of these are regulatory authorities putting in play? Are they enforcing it? Because the problem with sometimes corporate governance is internal control, where the various organizations are not putting in place checks and balances to ensure that they actually abide by the code of corporate governance. But when the regulatory authorities come in place, do you think that they are enforcing this?
Well, you talked of two issues there. One, there has to be the willingness of the entities themselves to incorporate the principles of corporate governance. And secondly, the willingness of the authorities, the regulators, to enforce. There appears to be some deficiency right now in terms of regulation. And again, various entities are at various stages in terms of their appreciation and willingness to enforce the codes internally.
Okay, so how do you think that can be improved upon? Because everyone wants to know what is going on in the company. Information dissemination is very important in boosting confidence among clients and customers. How much of these are we letting out in terms of information dissemination to the public?
Information is important. As Richard indicated, what's important is the tone at the top. So there has to be a willingness of the board and senior management of the companies to practice proper corporate governance. There also has to be a willingness of the regulators and the powers that be to enforce.
For the public sector, do you think we are putting that in place as well?
As I indicated, one of the codes that is currently in draft form issued by the Financial Reporting Council is a code for the public sector.
Not much seems to be happening at that end. Do you? Why is that so?
I am aware that there is a legal situation that's being addressed in the courts. The Financial Reporting Council will be the best people to talk about that.
Oh, okay. But when we look at the business environment in general, where everyone needs to be accountable, not just for the private sector, but public sector, how do you think we can continue to ensure that we maintain the highest standards? Yes, we don't have much information as regards company specifics now, but how do you think we can raise the bar in terms of compliance? Because compliance is key at this point.
Perhaps key stakeholders need to be more vocal in terms of encouraging people to practice at these high standards. There has to be, again, the willingness of entities to enforce these codes, not only enforce, to abide by the codes.
What lessons from around the world do you think we can take and also adopt into our own system?
That's difficult to say. There are lessons to be learned everywhere. You have already started as a country to do things in improved fashions. I can't identify any specific area at this point in time.
Okay, RSM International is the sixth largest, according to the information I have here.
Yes.
The sixth largest global audit, tax and consulting network in 120 countries. What impact do you think your involvement in businesses, your participation in economies have made on those environments?
I can't comment too much on the global organization, RSM International. Certainly, though, our association, this is SIO, our association with RSM International is going to certainly enhance our ability to provide quality service to our clients.
Okay, compliance again coming on board. But do you think that we are not falling short of the required standards now in terms of how much our own various units, because like you mentioned here, we have the issue of audit, tax, we have the HR, legal, finance, all work together to ensure that global best practices are instilled in various companies. Are we moving on towards achieving those things?
Certainly, the country is moving on. Again, at the risk of repeating myself, in the absence of empirical evidence as to what the situation is, we can only rely on anecdotal evidence. And the suggestion is that there is certainly room for improvement.
Thank you so much. At this point, I'd like to go. David Urage, partner, SIAO, RSM Nigeria, talking about corporate governance, risk management, and compliance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the program. Just to remind our viewers, so today is the Debt Management Office auction of 110 billion naira, and that will be done in 3 tranches. Looking at the numbers on your screen, July 2021, amount on offer is 40 billion naira at the coupon of 14.5%. For the January 2026 maturity, we're looking at the amount at 30 billion naira and coupon at 12.5%. And for that maturing March 2036, amount on offer is 40 billion naira at the coupon of 12.4%. Institutional investors, individuals are encouraged to be a part of it. And another top story that we're bringing your way is that the Central Bank of Nigeria has increased the amount of foreign exchange, the canvas sold to BDCs every week from $30,000 to $50,000 US. The committee stated the need that there will be need for Nigerians to pay school fees and also to go on holiday. So there is the need for that increase to be made so that the end users, we have more access to Forex. We're going to break now, and when we come back, we'll take you back to the market and seeing how the DMO auction of today would impact on the debt market. Please stay with us.